Hey guys, so Nexus 6. It it's a weird device. It's definitely not normal. Okay, let's get into it. So the Nexus 6 has, well, 3 gigabytes of RAM, 13 megapixel rear facing camera, Snapdragon 805, 32 or 64 gigabytes of storage, nano SIM, 2 megapixel front facing camera, that's fine. Um, it has all the standard Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, dual front-facing stereo speakers, 3220 milliamp hour battery, Qi wireless charging support. It has NFC, of course. It has GPS, and oh, did I forget to mention? It has a 5.9-inch display. You heard that right, 5.9-inch, 2560 by 1440, 2K, 493 ppi, 16 by 9 display covered by Corning Gorilla Glass 3. That's big. If you haven't already figured that out, that is almost 6 inches. That is 1 inch less than a tablet that Google made last year, although they're not making that this year. Maybe I'll do a video about that too. In fact, I kind of want to. Now, that's not to say it's going to be a bad phone. It's probably not. But, wow, that is big. And we kind of expected that. I mean, it wasn't really that big of a surprise. There were a lot of leaks, but it's 2014. Everything leaks. So, let's talk what's good and not about this. So, of course, it's big. That alienates a lot of people right there. I mean, the Nexus phones, well, the Nexus 5 at least, had pretty small bezels, at least small side bezels. The top and bottom bezels they were okay. But this has tiny bezels, don't get me wrong. The bottom bezel looks impressively small, and the top bezel looks relatively small. But this is really big. Well, at least the screen is. We'll get into that later. Let's talk about specs. This has top-of-the-line specs, no doubt about it. It has a 2K display. It has over 3,000 milliamp hour battery. Like I said, 3220 milliamp hour battery. It has front-facing speakers. It's water resistant, so that's a thing. Even the Moto X isn't water resistant, and this is made by Motorola, and it's based off the Moto X. In fact, I feel like I'm gonna keep calling this the Nexus X, but it comes in 2 colors, either midnight blue or let's see, what was the other one called? Cloud white. So interesting choices there. It has and of course it's NFC, but it can also do 1080p HD or 2160p Ultra HD video at 30 frames per second. It can take 4K video, and it also has 4 times digital zoom, HDR plus, panorama, photosphere, and lens blur, which is in the stock Google camera app. It has it is essentially using the Moto X camera, 13 megapixels, with the strange flash ring, which I haven't gotten to test, but it seems to be faring pretty well from what I've heard. And it has optical image stabilization. Now, the Moto X camera was acceptable, from what I hear. So, if it's this if it's acceptable, plus optical image stabilization, then I have some hope for it. But the Nexus 5 was based off the LG G2, which had a fantastic camera by all reviews, and the Nexus 5 camera left quite a bit to be desired. So, what do I think of this phone personally? I think it looks great. But let's talk about that 5.9-inch display. it should be completely gorgeous. I mean, it's AMOLED, first of all. It's 2560 by 1440, which gives it a 493 ppi, which is ridiculous. It's better than the Nexus 5. It's definitely better than the iPhone 6 Plus or the iPhone, or even the iPhone 6, I believe. That goes somewhere around 300 something ppi, if I'm not mistaken. Although I might be there. Now the 3220 milliamp hours on Motorola's website, it says mixed usage up to 24 hours. Now that's what it said for the Moto X, and battery life on that isn't great from what I hear. This does, however, also have Qi wireless charging support, so we'll just have to see how that turns out. It's water resistant, so that's odd. Even odder, though, is the fact that it's going to be on Verizon. And, well, I mean, it's not a Verizon exclusive or anything. It's going to be AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint. So all major carriers this time, unlike the Nexus 5, which wasn't on Verizon, but it was on all other three. But another thing is the price. This is $650 off contract. That's a bit weird. Okay, let's do some talk here. Let's do some logistics, rather. The Nexus 4 was where the cheap Nexus trend really started, or really took off. And the Nexus 5 followed that trend. So the Nexus 6 isn't really breaking out. HTC's Nexus 1, I believe it was called, maybe Nexus S. I don't think it was cheap. I may be wrong about that, but I'm pretty certain it was not a cheap device. So this isn't really anything new to the Nexus lineup. It's just the Nexus lineup has been famous for having really, really great specs at a cheap price, because that's how it got popular. The Nexus 4 was extremely popular. The Galaxy Nexus was relatively popular as well. Although I believe the Galaxy Nexus retail price was much higher than that of the Nexus 4. Anyhow, yeah, the Galaxy Nexus retailed at $649.99. So this is as much as a Galaxy Nexus, and if you consider that, it doesn't seem like a bad deal at all. I mean, for the same amount of money as you got top of the line specs at that time, for here you get just absolutely blow everything else away specs. So that's pretty good. The weight is 184 grams or 6.49 ounces, and that's fine. Shouldn't be too heavy, but it's not going to be light. It might look a bit strange in your pocket, and it'll look even stranger in your hand. I mean, okay, so you have the original Moto X, 4.7 inches, the iPhone 6, also 4.7 inches, and you have the Nexus 5, 4.9 inches, but 5 inches, really, because it was 4.96, and at that point, it's just easier to round up. So, there's that, and then you have the iPhone 6 Plus at 5.5, and then you have this at 5.9. Now that may seem big, but here's something to keep in mind. It's actually not that much taller than, say, an iPhone 6 Plus. You know, the iPhone 6 Plus is 158.1 millimeters. This Moto X Nexus 6 is 1.59.3. So 1 millimeter difference. That's really not that much. However, the iPhone 6 Plus is 77 millimeters wide, and the Moto X is 83 millimeters wide, so that might be a bit of a problem. And also, the iPhone 6 Plus is 7.1 millimeters thin, while the Moto X is 3.8 millimeters at the start of the curve, but at its thickest is 10.1. So that might be a bit worrisome if you have small hands. Something interesting to note, it seems that, note, because it's a large phone and there's a Samsung note. Something interesting to note is the fact that they seem to be still selling the Nexus 5. So that's something to keep in mind. I mean, the Nexus 5 is still a great performer. I'm wondering if they're going to maybe refresh it, maybe add a Snapdragon 8, maybe not 805 because that's just extremely unnecessary, but an 801 maybe. Who knows? So, what do you think of the Moto Nexus 6? Because I think it's great, but it definitely seems like a niche device, which is weird because they seem to be heading more towards a consumer product. But this is a developer device for sure, but I really want one. Oh, right, and I forgot to mention, apparently it's going to be on contract for AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint. So, well, T-Mobile doesn't really do contracts, but my point is it's going to be available on contract. My guess is $199, maybe $299. And also, if you think it's overpriced, keep in mind that it's actually, I believe, $100 cheaper for the 32 gigabyte Nexus 6 than the 32 gigabyte iPhone 6 Plus. So that's something to keep in mind. Of course, this doesn't have a fingerprint sensor, and my hope for the camera is pretty low, but other than that, it seems like it's going to be a hell of a phone. So, be sure to let me know what you think in the comments, because I really want to know what an audience thinks, what the public thinks of this phone, because you can only really hear about this kind of stuff at tech sites. So let me know, and be sure to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Hopefully sooner than it took to make this one.